Hello Ali Pallies and welcome back to my channel. Now, as you know, this weekend is kind of Glowgasm weekend for me, so that I can show you all these products. And I did promise you that my next video was going to be a get ready with me using the entire collection. Well, that's on its way immediately after this video, because what I want to film first is a little bit more detail about the new eyeshadow palette. Now, first of all, allow me to correct myself, because I've been referring to this palette as the Glowgasm palette, which of course it is. It's part of the palette that is part of the Glowgasm collection, but actually the palette is called Dreamgasm. So let's get this clear. This is called Dreamgasm, okay? And this is the palette. Now, I wanted to go into a bit more detail because the other day when I did that introduction, we had a lot of products to get through, and I swatched this for you in the park. They weren't that clear, and I know that lots of questions have come up. So let me tell you what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to swatch you these shades again for Dreamgasm, and then what I'm going to do, which is a question that's on a lot of people's lips, is I'm going to do some comparisons between Pillow Talk, Exaggereyes and transformeyes, because I think a lot of people, when they see this online, are asking that question. So, and then what I'll do is I'll end up by doing a kind of eyeshadow look using this new palette, and then stop the film, and then I'm going to be filming the rest of the look, which you will get straight afterwards. So I hope all that makes sense, and as usual there will be timestamps all the way through so that you can skip to the bits that you want. Okay, so let's get going, shall we? So first of all, I'm going to revisit these swatches of the Dreamgasm palette, and I'm have to keep saying that to myself. The Dreamgasm palette from the Glowgasm collection. So here is the palette, as you will see, and I think you would see that's in a better light than the other day. Okay, and so first of all, I'm going to show you I'm going to do some finger swatches and then arm swatches. So the first shade is called Prime, and I think she's kept to her original names, so she has. So this is Prime, and it's a kind of oystery, almost rose gold. There is a pink, you can see it now, the pink undertone to it. Now what this reminded me of quite a bit when she put this on my eyes the other day was the prime shade of Beauty Glow. Remember Instant Look in a Palette Beauty Glow? Because it is almost rose gold to start with, and even that just on your eyelids is beautiful and really eye-opening. Okay, so that is the prime shade, and I'm going to photograph that for you here. Okay, I'm going to do some arm swatch pictures at the end of this swatch section, so don't worry, you're going to get some more swatches on the way. So the next shade is the enhanced shade. Now this is the one that reminded me a lot of transformeyes, and I will be doing the comparison swatches in a second. Okay, so now you can see that in a really good light. It is the most stunning orangey gold, and it just looks perfect. And when you see that next to the prime shade, you think that can't possibly go together, but it does. It really works well, and you can see it looks stunning in the light. Okay, so I'm going to swatch that. I'm going to take a picture of that swatch and put it here. Okay, so next up we have the smoke shade, which of course is called Smoke, as she the normal names for her palette. So this is the smoke shade, which is here, and I'm going to swatch that here on my hand. Let me just, sorry, I've still got a bit of that enhanced shade. I'll put it next to there. Okay, so it's a nice coppery tone. Now that one reminds me a little bit of the MAC Boom Boom Bloom collection, one of the shades in there. But you can see it's beautiful, very warm, and you can see that that will go with the enhanced shade. So it's kind of pinks and more warmer kind of bronzy golds mixed together, and it just is stunning when you see them all together. Okay, so I'm going to take a picture of that and I'll be right back. Okay, last up but certainly not least, we have the pop shade. And as I said the other day, this is a little bit like Pillow Talk, Exaggereyes and Transformeyes had a baby. It is just stunning. So let me just show you the pop shade on my finger first, which is there. Look at the way it reflects light. It's just gorgeous, really gorgeous. And then I'm just going to swatch it here for you. Now, you can see that it has got quite big shimmer particles, but it's not as big as Transformeyes. Not Transformeyes, sorry, Exaggereyes. I found that the Exaggereyes glitter particles were too big and they kind of fell off and went everywhere, whereas this one stays put. And just look at that. So I'm going to take a photo and I will put it right here. Okay, so next up I'm going to insert a picture here of all the shades together on the lightest part of my arm so that you can see what it looks like on fairer skin. Okay, so let's get into some comparisons, shall we? Now, first of all, I thought what would be useful is to show you a picture of all these 4 palettes that I'm talking about together. So I'm going to put that picture here. Okay, so if you're like me, and when you looked at that picture just now, you must have thought, well, actually, it's very similar to all of those. But I hope by the end of this video, when you see the swatches, you will see that actually this is something quite unique. As I say, there's nothing in it for me to sell it to you guys, but I just absolutely adore this palette. It is my all-time favourite. And not just because it's new and next week I'm going to love another one. I just, you know, to me, it just pips all of the other palettes. So hopefully I'll be able to get that across in the video. You may disagree with me, of course, that's your opinion. But it is my personal favourite now. So let's just get into some of these comparisons now and go through some of the swatches. Okay, so the closest, let's get to the prime shade. The closest prime shade to, let me just show you this Dreamgasm again on my hand. Now, in terms of the pink undertone, the closest prime shade to that is from Pillow Talk. But Pillow Talk is got a lot more pink behind it. And I think you'll be able to see that here. So it's a lot pinkier. whereas this has got more of a subtle pink undertone and is more eye brightening. Okay. Now, when you go to Transformeyes, that one is more of a champagne colour, and sorry, exaggereyes. I'm going to get confused, aren't I? So this one is Dreamgasm. This one is Pillow Talk. This one is Exaggereyes Prime Shade. And then this one is Transformeyes. Okay, and I'm going to put picture in between. So what I took from those comparison of those prime shades is already, before we get into the ones with more colour in them, you can already see why I'm saying Transformeyes and not just Pillow Talk. Because on first impressions, this looks more like Pillow Talk, but you can start to see where Transformeyes comes into the equation. Okay, so let's move on to the enhance shades. Okay, so I'm going to just clean my hands up and be right back. Now, before we talk about the enhanced shades, I should say that this palette, Dreamgasm, doesn't have any mattes in it. But before you switch off and say, oh no, I don't want a palette with no mattes in it. If you look back at the video the other day, you can see I've got very hooded eyes. And you see the way that Tamzin made me up. I was quite surprised. I would actually normally avoid a palette that doesn't have any mattes in it. But this one looks fine and very eye-opening, and the eye-opening effect kind of counteracts the fact that there's no mattes. So hopefully I will show you that later on when I do a look. But so let's look at these enhanced shades. Now the nearest enhanced shade to Dreamgasm is actually in Transformeyes. So here is the enhanced shade, as you can see, for Dreamgasm. And then I'm going to show you the enhanced shade for Transformeyes. Okay. Very, very similar actually, except this has got more of an orangey tone into it. Okay. Now, if you look at the Pillow Talk palette, that's completely different. And then you look at Exaggereyes, that's completely different too. So that's Exaggereyes. All right, so you can see what I'm saying now about Pillow Talk and Transformeyes having a baby, and this being kind of a mixture of all of these, the best bits of all of these rolled into one. All right, so I will just take a picture and I'll be right back. Okay, so moving on to the smoke shades, I'm going through each shade methodically because I think that's important so that you can also see the comparisons and think about them for yourself rather than me just giving you my opinion. So I'm going to go to the smoke shade now. So this is the smoke shade of Dreamgasm, which is a lovely coppery shade. Now, when I look at the palettes, I'm just looking at these, all of these together. There really isn't anything to compare to this shade in any of the palettes. So let me just show you. This one is Pillow Talk. This one is probably, they're all sort of on a similar spectrum, but none that are anything like it really. And most of them are matte. So that one is the next one. So that was Pillow Talk. That one is Exaggereyes. And this one is transformeyes. Now the only thing that this reminds me of in terms of tone of colour, but it's matte, is the pop shade of transformeyes, which I'll just put next to it. Can you see that? So that is actually matte, but it's a very similar shade to the pop shade of transformeyes. So I'll take a photo and I'll leave that here. Okay, so next we go on to the pop shades. Now, to me, this pop shade is just stunning, which you can see. I'm going to just swatch that again for you. There. Now, there is a similar shade, which is from Pillow Talk. I'm just going to swatch that next to it so that you can see that. That is very, very similar, as you can see. But I think this one has just got that je ne sais quoi. It's just got a bit more oomph to it in terms of the way that it reflects light. This one's got, it's a little bit deeper. Slightly more pinkier. This one's slightly peachier. Okay. And then I'll show you the Exaggereyes pop shade, which is here. Now, I find with Exaggereyes that the glitter particles are too much and they kind of fall away and they end up getting all over my face. Now, if you can see, this one has got the same intensity in terms of the way that it reflects light, but without having these really big chunks of glitter. I'm going to try and capture that on the camera. And then, of course, last we have something that doesn't look anything like any of them, which is transformeyes, which is this very, very pigmented, almost pure pigment, if not pure pigment. So those are the pop shades. Okay, I'm now off to roll up my sleeves and attempt to swatch all 4 palettes together so that you can see them side by side. Wish me luck, and I'll be right back. Now, what's really interesting, having looked at those swatches, is I appear to completely disprove the whole premise of this video, which is that this is something really different, because actually it looks very similar to a lot of them when you put them all together. So I hope that by going on to the next part of my video and showing you this on my eyes, you're going to see how different this looks, because it really does look like something different to what we've had before. And as I said, there's nothing in it for me to sell you this palette. I just love it. And I think one of the reasons that I love it so much is that I often used to mix transformeyes and exaggereyes together on my eyes to make a look, which I think a lot of people would either use transformeyes or they'd use exaggereyes, but they very rarely mix them together. And if you look back on a video, I'm going to see if I can find it, I did actually do a look where I mixed the two together. And I think that's why I love this palette so much, because it's taking the hues of both of those palettes, which are seemingly very different, and mixing them together. So let's get going with the eye look. And yeah, there's nothing more to say. See you in a second. Now, I'm probably going to repeat this in my next video, but I will put the details of the base that I've used. You'll notice that I haven't gone over the top with glowy products as my base. I've used Magic Foundation and I've set it with powder, and I've used a bit of Airbrush Flawless Finish powder as well. Reason being is I think you can go a bit overboard with this collection, and if you use Light Wonder and you use Flawless Filter and you start layering on all these glowy products, you're going to glow like a beacon rather than look like you've got a natural glow from within. So I will repeat that in my next video because I think it's a really important point. Okay, so first up I'm going to go in with the prime shade all over my lids, and I think you'll see how eye-opening this is. And before I go, I am going to show you the Beauty Glow palette because I think this shade is very similar. Now, the way I would have applied this palette would be now to go in with the enhanced shade all over my lid, over the top of that prime shade. But what Tamzin was saying, and I know it was difficult to hear in the last video, was that actually, because I would put the dark right in the corner here, was actually that the enhanced shade in the corner here and in the crease will actually open up the eye, and it really did work. So I'm going to try that today and show you what she was talking about. Okay, so now I'm going to go in, same thing, smudge a brush. These are all Charlotte Tilbury brushes, by the way, and I'm just going to go in at the side and also up into the crease with this enhanced shade. Can you see how that opens the eye, and it's not a matte shade? And what was great about this is that I have got into a comfort zone of how to apply eyeshadow, and that's why it was great to actually have my eyes done by somebody else and to show me a slightly different way. Okay, and then what she did is she went in with the smudge brush and she used that to go across the top here and under the eye. So I'll just get my smudge brush. Okay, so I'm going to take the enhanced shade with the smudge brush and I'm just going to go along the lash line as she did. It's so pretty, this palette, really pretty. And I think as I'm applying it, you will see that it doesn't look anything like Pillow Talk. And then I'm going to put it underneath. Here and here. Now this shade also reminds me a little bit of Legendary Muse, so I will also show you that before I finish off. Okay. Now my eyes are a little bit watery today to do with the pollen. I've put eye drops in, but hopefully we'll be okay. And then what she did is also, where I often go in and I put a highlighter shade, so the prime shade up here to highlight the centre of my lid and to make it look more concave. What she was talking about is putting a little bit under the eye at that point as well to open up the eye. It's very subtle, but it does actually make the eye look bigger. Those little subtle touches that often do a lot. Okay, and then next up I'm going to go in with the smoke shade and I'm going to start smoking it out. But I noticed that what she did, she didn't go in with a smudge brush and make it really, really dark. She went in with the blending brush and used some very light touch and started to build it up quite gradually. So that's what I'm going to do in that corner. Do you see how I'm getting that shape to go up towards my brow? That one needs blending a bit, but it just kind of lifts the eye a little bit. I think one of the things I've always take from being made up at Charlotte Tilbury is the kind of light touch that they use, and the amount that they put on the brush is a lot less than I would normally do. And they build it gradually until they've got the right intensity. So that's what I'm trying to do with this today. And then I'm going to take the smudge brush and I'm going to take that smoke shade and I'm going to take that underneath, but just into the middle and stop. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that and take that along there, but not all the way along. And then same with the other eye. Okay, and I'm going to take the prime shade and I'm just going to dot some of that under here, under my brow bone, like so. And then the other side. Now what she did with the pop shade was she asked me what I wanted, and I said, well, try it a different way, because she said I could put it in the center. Is that what you normally do? And I said yes. She said, but she said, how about doing it the way I've done it on my eyes, which is to take it from the inner corner out to here and then stop at the center. And I said, try it, and it looked lovely. So I'm going to do that today and show you what that looks like. So I'm just taking some of the pop shade, and you can see it immediately lightens up the eye. Now, I'd still be a little bit cautious about making sure that you wash your fingers afterwards, because it's still got particles in there that you don't want to start smearing on your face if you've got little particles left over. But I don't find it's as annoying as when I use exaggereyes. Okay, now one of the things I've been trying recently, and I want to do before I start putting eyeliner on and before I start putting on mascara, is I have been spraying my eyes very gently just to take that powdery look away, so that any crepiness starts to kind of blend out. So rather than putting the eyeshadow on with a wet brush and fiddling about that way, just to give it a light spray, just to take any crepey look off the eyeshadow. I need to just tuck that in a little bit more into that corner there. It's because I'm not used to putting the prime shade, sorry, the pop shade right into the corner. And what I'm going to do before I do that actually is just to go over the center with the prime shade, just to highlight the center of the lid. And again, a bit more underneath with my finger, just in the center there. Okay, I'm just going to get the spray and I'll be right back. The thing with the spray is, if you're going to do this, don't hold it too close, because the first thing you're going to do is squeeze up your eyes. So what you need to do is to relax your eyes as much as possible and hold it at a fair distance, so that you're not going to screw up your eyes and then you're only going to get the water on certain part of your eyes. I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, and that's what it looks like afterwards. It's just a gentler way of making the eyeshadow wet, really, and making it look a little less crepey if you have older lids. So next up, I'm going to go in with Barbarella Brown, which she used on the upper eyelid, and she used Audrey. Now, I don't know if I can find my Audrey pencil. I seem to have mislaid it. If I can, I'll use it. She used that underneath. If not, I'll use a bit of Barbarella Brown. And she used the eye cheat in the lower waterline. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So what I did is I put Barbarella Brown on the top and I smudged it in with her eyeliner brush. And then on the bottom, I couldn't find my Audrey pencil, but I found my Sophia one, which is very similar, but it's just a little bit lighter, and actually it's quite nice. So that's what the Sophia pencil looks like. I was just swatching it myself a minute ago. It's got a tiny bit of sparkle to it. So I put that underneath. And then I used Legendary Lashes, which is what she used on me. Now, she then did my brows, which I'm going to do in a minute. But I'm just, for the finishing touches, I'm going to go back in with a bit more of the pop shade, just to make sure that that is showing up on my eyes. And then a little bit more of the prime shade dotted in the center again. Now, one of the other things that I did the other day, which I won't do today, but it actually looked really nice, is that I went in at the side with a pencil that was a very limited edition blue pencil that Charlotte bought out. And I've forgotten the name of it. I'll put it on voiceover. But I put it just at the sides like Charlotte does sometimes. So you could actually go in with Marlene Midnight or something, just to kind of contrast with the warm tones of the eyeshadow, and it looks really pretty. I'm gonna show you actually, so I will put that on in a second and I'll be right back after I've done my brows. Okay, I've done my brows and I've done one of my eyes with this pencil, which is called Sapphire Sex, just in the corner, and it was this one. And can you see how it's very subtle, but it kind of opens up the eye even more, and it contrasts with the warmth of the eyeshadow. So I'm going to put it on this. You'll see. Now, obviously you won't have this Sapphire Sex, but there is another one called Marlene Midnight, which you can use. Sorry, my eyes are watering a little bit, so I'm just dabbing away. Or the other one you can use is Elizabeth Violet, because that will contrast as well. So what I did with this is I just took some on this outer corner here and swept it up a little bit, and then linked it up with the bottom. I'm struggling with my watery eyes, so hopefully it will stick. Yes, it does. And then before that sets, just let me take that across slightly. And before that sets, I take my eyeliner brush by Charlotte Tilbury. This is her new one, as opposed to the old slanted one. And I just smudge it in a little bit, like that. And the eye won't see that as blue, but it just contrasts enough to open up the eyes a little bit more. And then the final touch that she did before finishing the eyes is what I'm going to leave you with next. Okay, so what she did is she went back in with some Magic Away just to kind of tidy up everything and make sure. So she didn't set this with powder. Now I did a little bit, but I find it doesn't matter too much. I can go over the powder and it doesn't ruin it. But she did that just to kind of add a little bit more, because she was saying that once you've got your eyeshadow on, you often find that you need a little bit more brightening under the eye than when you haven't. So it's difficult to judge how much you need until you've got your eyeshadow on, and of course it can help you then to clean up the sides. Just to clarify, she did actually set the concealer afterwards, but what I was trying to say is she didn't set it with powder in that initial application at the beginning, like so. And I find with Magic Away that once it's dried down, you actually don't need to set it. It's one of those things that you feel like you should, but I don't really think that you have to. And the thing is, if you've got crepey skin and you don't have to set it, then don't, because the more powder, even Charlotte's fine powder that you have, the more powder you have there, it's going to look more crepey. The only reason that I do use a little bit is to make sure that it stays on when my eyes water. Okay, so that is the eye look. Now before I go, I did promise you I'm going to show you two other shades that I think may compare to this eyeshadow palette. Okay, so if we're looking at Beauty Glow Instant Look in a palette, which is here, it reminds me a lot of these two shades. So let me just show you that. So this is the prime shade of the Beauty Glow palette, and this is the prime shade of the Dreamgasm palette. Can you see how similar they are? Probably more similar than any of the others. So it's just a little bit richer, I would say, the Beauty Glow palette. And then I think that the next shade along in Beauty Glow is kind of very similar again to the next shade along here, but it's sort of that one. This one is obviously richer, so that's another comparison there. And then we have the Legendary Muse palette, which also, this shade, the enhanced shade here, reminded me of the enhanced shade of Dreamgasm, if you look at it here. Okay, so let me just show you those two shades. So this is the enhanced shade of Dreamgasm, which is here, and this is the enhanced shade of Legendary Muse, which is here. So those are quite similar. And in fact, also, if you look at the prime shade of Dreamgasm, which is here, and then you look at the prime shade of Legendary Muse, which is here, they're also quite similar. So I hope this has been helpful. If you want to see me completing this look, I'm going to be going straight on to film my completed look, and I'm going to be using the collagen lip baths, which have also not yet been released online. If you're looking for this palette, you can actually get this palette, this Dreamgasm palette, if you live near a Charlotte Tilbury store in the UK. Now, I thought it was just Covent Garden, but one of my followers went into Westfield store and she was able to get this palette too. So I'm assuming that it's also available in White City, Charlotte Tilbury. Otherwise, you will need to wait until the 2nd of May when it is on general release online. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful, and don't forget to look on by in about an hour or so's time when I will be uploading how I completed this look. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Any questions, please leave your comments below. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much, Ali Pally. See you all soon. Bye-bye.